Welcome everyone. The next 30 minutes or so, you're going to learn all about IP, AI and IP, and all the topics in between. So, a surgeon, an engineer, a sales guy, and a marketing guy walk into a bar. No, not really. I'm not much of a jokester. I leave that to other comedians. Actually, they walked into my office. And why did they walk into my office? Well, they had this idea. Nothing on paper, it was all in their minds. The surgeon, a top neurosurgeon in his field, well known throughout the world, throughout the country, was frustrated with the lack of optimization in operating procedure rooms. Yes, I know we've all are scared when we have a surgery. This surgeon is not telling us we can do things better. They can do things better. And that's why they came to me. Over a series of many discussions and capturing what their ideas were and what they were going to create, we ended up starting to work together. And I'm going to leave it there and just stay tuned because I'll tell you more about what ended up happening with these great four guys. So why did they come to me? They actually were referred to me by another patent attorney who knew my journey. You see, that attorney knew I was not your ordinary IP attorney. I started my journey in the professional field as an engineer, and I had a whole career in that space doing such things as leading the first group that invented and sold the first wristwatch pager. I led a team that designed and installed the first paging infrastructure in the entire country of India. I could go on and on. So yes, I had a lot of experience in the technical field. But what I loved was during those engineering projects, we were able to protect the novelty with patents. In fact, I'm an inventor of 5 patents myself. As time went on, and I was so interested in the IP field, I decided to go back to school and become a patent attorney and then an overall IP attorney. So that's my second career, where I was now, instead of being the inventor, I was helping inventors. And then something happened. I had been all that time in corporate, and in 2018, at a blink of an eye, my husband on a Saturday night had a heart attack, and an hour later he was gone. And the day I became a widow, I was also became the owner of a law firm, Sagacity Legal. Now, he was in a very different space, and so we won't get into the discussion of how you disengage and you move out of a law firm space that you are not knowledgeable in. But as a year went by, I realized, wait, all of this knowledge that I have been giving to a corporation, to acquired law firms that we would bring in with new technologies, I could do that for entrepreneurs. I could do that for startups. I could do that for businesses like you. And that's when Sagacity was relaunched 6 years ago as an IP firm. And that's why the 4 guys that came to me knew that I was not your ordinary IP attorney and that I could help them. And Sagacity over the years has been growing. This idea that small businesses needed help, oh yes, we've been helping so many, and I'll just leave it at that with all of these great accolades my team and I have been able to get. So if you're watching this, I have a question for you. Do you own a patent, a trademark, or a copyright? Are you a small business owner? Have you protected your inventions, your logos, your business name, your content? If you haven't, why not? So let's dive into a little bit of a lesson on IP basics, and most importantly, why we're talking about this, why IP protection is important. So what is IP? IP is an intangible asset that relates to the creation within the mind, inventions, literary and artistic work, design, symbols, names, images, anything that's used in commerce, and that is key, that it's things used in commerce. So whether you own registered intellectual property right now, you might have that intellectual property if you're thinking about starting a business or you own a business. If you're an inventor, an artist, a designer, if you sell goods online or in a store, or you provide services to others, does that sound like you? Then we need to then keep going with this presentation and we need to talk. Now, I've heard many times from business owners that they're very, very busy and they only have so much budget. And this IP stuff, that's just a nice to have when they get bigger. But let me tell you why it's important to protect your IP from the beginning, as you grow, and even once you're established. The first is business valuation. A recent study showed that there's an increase of 76% in venture capital funding over 3 years for businesses that have at least one patent. That's huge, right? You're all looking for investors. You need to be able to show the investors that you're better than the competition. It's also shown that that one patent leads to 80% increase in sales over 5 years. We all want that, right? That's why IP is important. It's also important to give you a competitive advantage. As you grow, people are going to copy your novelty. They will. I like to say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If you establish your technology leadership and you register your intellectual property, you can block the competition. You can send them demand letters, you can sue for infringement, and if it's online copyright or trademark, you can do takedowns right on the platforms and they'll be gone. So you can stop those copycats, and by the way, you can also stop imports of counterfeits. But that's not all. Knowing that your IP is novel and protected also gives you avoidance of infringement accusations by others. That is what I call freedom to operate. How much better can you sleep if you know that no one's going to be sending you a cease and desist or a claim of litigation? And lastly, IP is actually valuable on its own, not only from commercialization, but licensing. And if unfortunately you have to go down the litigation route, litigation awards run in the millions. So let's do a real quick discussion of the three major types of IP. The first is, and the reason I'm doing this is people come to me a lot of times and they go, I want to patent my logo, or I want to copyright my invention. So understanding the differences in the major types of IP is really important to you managing your business. And the first is what we've all heard of, which is trademark. A trademark is anything you are using to indicate the source of your business, of your goods and services. It could be a name, it could be a logo, it could be a phrase, it could be colors, it could be sounds, smells. Anything that tells people, this is me, this is my business. Now, if you haven't registered yet, be sure to do this DIY tip. I call it a no trespassing sign. You can put a TM on anything that you're using uniquely right now that tells people who you are, who your business is. A TM is not a registration. You still want to register your important marks, but it lets people know that you believe this is yours. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this. In the US and many countries, first to file in the trademark world is the presumed owner. So if you've been running your business for 20 years and tomorrow someone registers that brand, you're now infringing. Not a good place to be. Copyrights. Now, we've all heard of copyrights, but copyright is unique in that copyright ownership is a right that is created as soon as you originate something tangible. So what does that mean? The second you put a new blog post out, or you write an article, or this video that we're creating, the author and owner of that material is the presumed and rightful owner immediately on creation. So copyrights are anything in a fixed tangible medium. It could be songs, videos, movies, blogs, articles, books, you name it. Again, you don't have to register immediately. So put your no trespassing signs, and those are copyright registration notices. That tells people, this is mine, don't touch it, don't copyright it. On the other hand, in order to litigate, you will need, and I'm not going to get into the details here, but you will need to register your most important materials. Lastly, patents. Patents are the most valuable of intellectual property. Patents are interesting in that they're actually a contract with a government. So you're contracting that you will disclose how to do something. You're going to give away your secret sauce. But in response, you're receiving an exclusive period of time where only you can use it. In the US, that's 20 years from filing. So when you invent something, you may be giving away the knowledge of how it works, but by having a patent, nobody else can do it for 20 years. So let's think of an example that you're all very familiar with. How many of you have bought brand medications? And then all of a sudden, there's generics. They're a lot less expensive, right? You know why? Because the generics are companies that read the patent, recreate it, but it's 20 years and the patent is no longer enforceable. The reason they're less expensive is they didn't have all that research and development that the originator had. And of course, now there's more competition in the market, so they have to price it accordingly. Now, patents, just like trademarks, first to file in the US is the presumed owner. So you have an idea and you don't file a patent application, and someone in another part of the country files a similar idea. They may not have copied it from you, they just came up with that idea too. They're going to get the patent, and yeah, yes, if you commercialize, you would be infringing. So let's do some storytelling. What happens if you do not protect your IP? Well, this example is a real world example, so you can realize how important it is. A company came to me. They had an amazing line of unique products. They were custom designed furniture that they co-designed with a European business. Now, the European business was great. They had done design patents. They had many design patents in their country. Nothing was filed in the US. The business that came to me was their US partner that was selling, designing these products. They had no registered copyrights on any of the material on their website, no notices, and actually they didn't even have website terms and conditions. The reason they came to me was another company not only was copying their unique products and selling them in another state, but they went so far as they were using the photos in the gallery of this business as their own. That's right. They were posting on their social media, on their own website, in blog posts, all over the place that here's our products. But actually, it was photos off of this other business's website. So you can see how messy this can get only because the business didn't realize they needed to protect every bit of their IP. The funny thing is they had trademarked their business name, and that's how we knew each other, but they never thought about the others. Now, the infringer could not be shut down without a litigation. And let me tell you, litigation costs alone, even when you're the enforcer, can put you out of business. What could this company go after? Well, believe it or not, it was copyright infringement. They couldn't claim patent infringement. They had no patents on their products. So they could only do copyright infringement. And sadly, the litigation costs have now put this company out of business. But what happens if you do protect? So let's go back to my favorite four guys: the surgeon, the marketing, the sales, and engineer. Guess what? They are the owners of a company called eXeX, and they are the future of surgery. They use AI surgical optimization along with AR VR technology to create a collaborative environment where they are optimizing the procedures, the tools, and the overall operating room. And they are now actually in many, many states in the US and actually also in Europe at this point. And they just announced this week that they are opening, they have partnered with a Brazil hospital. So they're really making worldwide. And their IP protection journey started the day they met me, because we did a patent clearance based on everything they said to me that was just an idea. And we ended up filing, even at that point, that early on, where they had nothing tangible, multiple patent applications, which now at this point, some have granted, some are being examined. And since then, more ideas have come up as they implemented the software, as they implemented the system. And yes, because they work with me, they're not only patenting their novel ideas and inventions and their future ideas, but they've trademarked 12 families globally. So they have buttoned up any copycats to their brand as well. And what does that do? Well, guess what? They have just been named one of Time Magazine's best inventions of 2024. This is what happens when you do things right from the beginning with IP.